an assassin.
Lawsuit ain't no nigga. That's I ain't think about that. Y'all finally see Sanders?
Y'all
I know
see
that.
Sanders.
I know that. You say, it was a good movie.
That's what I said. It was a great movie.
Yeah.
You don't like the title.
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Well Married Black Man. Yours truly,
What's it called?
Chris Bender Sr.
Chris Jr. here to empower, inspire, and uplift the community.
Devin Pender here to remind y'all to like, follow, subscribe, share, comment. Salute to the people who joined us on live already.
Yeah, I can see you on IG. I appreciate y'all. You know, feel free to drop some likes, some comments.
Well, let me clear up for clarification purposes. It's not that I don't like the title of the movie. It's just not, it's just not my type of movie. I've never been that type of movie guy in my life.
I know.
It's not just, my type of movie.
But you know what? There are some.
I'm
it's funny because there probably are some people who are religious.
Oh yeah, I've been having some.
I'm not gonna see that. It's called sinners.
Well, it was a guy. Real quick, I won't tell you long. Get what you're talking about. It was, and that is just true because there was a guy, a Christian, on something. Was it YouTube? Somebody sent it to me, and he was going off on Christians that went and saw the movie. Now, I think most of it is because of what you said, because the title. Like remember The Wood.
Yeah.
When The Wood came out before the movie, everybody was talking about how bad it was because they thought it was about sex.
Yeah.
Oh, they got a movie called The Wood, so we do get caught up in titles. But for me, it's just not my cup of tea, man. It's not.
Well, I'll let you. The one scene spoiler you would have liked.
I'm not gonna say it, so it ain't a spoiler. So I'm not gonna say
He
it.
rolled down them KKK.
I'm not gonna say it. Anyway, so let's get on track. So it's a man. We got a plethora of stuff we could talk about, man. I know we want to talk about Deion, but I know the other subject that we want to try to get to is Barkley's getting tattoos, man, for playing golf. Saquon Barkley for playing golf with Trump and hanging out with Trump. Yeah, it looks worse than it is because Hurts didn't go, AJ Brown didn't go, Devontae Smith didn't go. Graham didn't go. A lot of the other players didn't go. So we can talk about that later. Man. But it's just interesting dialogue because you hear different sides of it. But I definitely want to jump into the Shedeur Sanders thing.
Yeah.
Because it's ironic because, for instance, I'll start with Chris Carter because he just flipped on this thing totally. The first interview he gave, he was like, "Oh yeah, well, you got to stop attacking this man's character because he's just such a character guy. I've talked to him, and this driver I met, his driver told me how great he was. And then just yesterday, or the day before yesterday, he got and I'm thinking like, what? And then he said two things in the video that I thought were contradictory. When he said, you got to his talent. His talent says he's a first rounder, no later in the second rounder, and then he says, yeah, but, there's other things, but if you're a GM and you're trying to win, you won't expect the talent. And then the thing he said that I thought was really, really kind of threw me off when he says, the guy asked him a question, well, do you think it was collusion? He says, no. So the guy says, what do you think it is? He says, they were teaching him a lesson. They were humbling him, letting him know he don't run stuff.
They colluded.
So that's what I'm thinking. And the guy says, well, so he says, oh, no. So he says, the system. Well, we know who the system is.
The shield.
Yeah, that's kind of how I call it. Yeah,
the shield. Yeah. That's how they talk.
But I just thought it was funny how, you said that.
Don't he work for NFL Network? Something like that. Chris Carter.
On and on. But I just thought it was funny how you said that. And what's the definition of collusion? When a group of people get together and determine they're going to do something, you can conspire, so whatever you want to call it. That's the definition. And then I think after he said it, you saw a look on his face. He didn't realize what came out of his mouth. He was like, after he said that, but it's like, wait a minute. And then the other thing that I want to talk about is because I've never heard, people said certain things, but it seems like every white person, they don't bring up his talent. They bring up his arrogance. Or they think he has a sense of entitlement. And then Chris Carter brought up because they didn't like him because he has a clothesline. Legend. I'm like, yo.
He bought up the contract thing. Like, he's going to check the check. I see.
But it's not check the check. Dude worth millions of dollars. I know how people, not his father, he is. So anyway, so we can jump into this. But I just thought it ironic. So like, and I keep hearing it. Nobody talks about his talent. Everybody's talking about, you know, his character. He feels self-entitled. You know, he just, you know, oh, he's gonna bring a circus with him. Deion is gonna be trying to run the team. And it's funny because I love Rich Eisen because he said it. He said, yo, and I know he kind of shut him down on the set. He said, if you're a coach and you worry about somebody's father running your team, you got a problem, a bigger problem. Yeah, and then
he's not a regular father.
Yeah, but he ain't be coming into your locker room, coming into the stadium. No, he's not. He
got games of his own. Right?
Yeah, but in the back of my mind, from a coach's standpoint, I can see like if I have one slip up, what's to stop them from asking me and then bringing Deion?
And I was just thinking about that. Like that's actually might be a thing.
But see, you know why? But see, and the way things shook out. You kind of knew that was because, and I know Deion got to be hurt because that was a slap in the face to him because I know he thought he had all his clout. I know he thought he had all his clout, man. He thought like, yo,
I think it was more towards him.
Yeah, and I agree, but I think to him it was like,
man, he knew he had some haters.
Yeah, not to that level, not to that level. I don't think anybody anticipated, and the level-headed people are saying it, and they're saying the same thing I'm saying. If it was his talent, come out and say it. You should have said that long before the draft, long before everybody had him in the top 10, long before you was lauding him how good he was. You know, and you wait till it gets close to draft, and now you just start saying stuff, and then nobody wants to go on record. By the way,
I feel like, and I don't know if you guys actually said this, but there was like a thing going around, like they were the only team that actually had some kind of, I guess, reasoning why they passed up on him. They didn't like the way he came in. He didn't come in prepared in the interview, and then when he got called out, like he got really defensive about it.
See, and they like put a name to it too.
Yeah. So it's like that's like the only, but everyone else, like you said, that's not an excuse. You know?
But see, even with the Giants, I wonder because you know his dad, this Giants,
and his dad too.
His dad, when they were trying to draft his dad, the Giants was making everybody take a test, and they called him. Yes. So, but I'm just saying, people got long memory, and then he wasn't, and I don't know what's prepared for draft day. So that's another question. Well, what do you prepare for? I don't know. I don't know.
I heard it was like a pre-draft workout thing, and they asked him to change like how he did something, which is also something where it's like, yo, why are you asking me to change or tweak a mechanism in my mechanics just for this draft workout with you? And I'm working out for 32 other teams, and like this is something. It's like
if you draft me,
then we can work it.
And you know why I don't take the Giants seriously? You paid Daniel Jones over Barkley. So how now you a quarterback guru?
And that's another thing too.
Now you a quarterback guru?
I'm gonna listen to you.
Like, and look who you have when you're. I'm not being smart. Look at your roster, right? Your quarterback room.
Yeah, but I think the one thing, and even why I wanted to talk about this is like, what's the difference between confidence and cocky? Because it's literally
other than skin color.
And that's kind of what I want to get at because there's been plenty of players before. Like you got your Baker Mayfields, your Johnny Manziels, your what's his name, Josh Rosen, the dude that went to, and he was probably one of the worst ones because I remember him coming on there talking like he's like, yeah, I'm gonna be the next one, and y'all gonna regret it, and like, and he had a very similar background. I would say Shedeur because he came from money. He was like his.
But let me ask you
he just had a lot of stuff around him that most people. I would say.
I have a theory on that. Do you think? Because Cam is the exact opposite. You know, he didn't come out doing all this stuff. He didn't have glamour. You know, he just was so low key. You know, he just didn't. He came off as this real quiet person. He did this real meek, quiet person. So do you think that kind of put extra light on Shedeur?
That's the only thing I will say I don't like is that Cam Ward's not getting enough recognition.
He got almost none. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
Because number one pick and getting out the mud the way you did, and like you could, and that's another thing that leads to the Shedeur thing. I'm pretty sure people saw that video of him and Cam Ward
working out together.
And they used that against Cam too. Because
I think they use that against Shedeur.
I think, but against both of them.
I think that was more in Cam's favor.
Yeah, because you can see how dedicated he is.
It depends on the audience, though. I do agree, but I think they used the hurt Shedeur. But for people who because I've been reading some of the stuff, you know, the question comes back to is he? I don't agree with this, but the question comes back is he like the house guy? You know what I mean? He's not going to say anything. No, I'm just saying.
There's people that must have been seeing clips because when I watched the whole thing, I was like, he a dog. Like even I liked how he was talking back and forth with Shedeur because Shedeur is a
they were
very
going
much
back
like his dad.
Oh, he's not going back down.
And he had some witty, clever things to say. Like Shedeur asked him about like, yo, you want to get on this rap song with me? And he was like,
that's a big plan.
He said, what I want to do that for?
He
said, I'm a football player.
Yeah.
He said, when people Google my name, they're gonna see American football player.
And that did hurt Shedeur. That did hurt.
So I just think like his mentality, like, is seeing that against Shedeur.
But I mean,
people don't take that into account. Like, yeah, we understand that. Like, you can be confident and have this aura about yourself, but I think it's a difference between when it's like knowing when to just shut up and just work, and then knowing when to like do that.
And I agree, the conversation. But I also think if you're not Shedeur, they're not taping that. They're not filming that.
Very true.
If you're not Shedeur Sanders, they're not filming that. You would never see that or Cam for that. Like after the draft, they came out where they interviewed Cam, and he was talking to him, and he said, "Well, which teams do you think will make the Super Bowl first? The Titans, the three terrible teams." And he said, "Well," and they said, "Well, who do you think?" He said, "Whatever team draft me." So he got a little bit of confidence. I'm not saying that bad way. I'm saying he had that confidence. Quarterback.
And I think as an athlete, like you have to have that in you to just that belief of like, yo, anything in front of me, like I'm going through it. This can't stop me. Like I am the best of the best in my position. Like who would go into a position and just be like, well, I don't know. We're going to see what's going to happen. Like,
but I think to me it's a no-win situation because if you're Jalen Hurts, you get burned because you don't fight back. You just get burned consistently over and over and over again. And if you him, or it's because like Cam Newton, he wasn't getting he couldn't get another job.
Yeah.
And so at that standard, but then you got a guy like Aaron Rodgers who probably is not half as good as he was. He could decide when he want to come in the camp, when he want to sign, and I don't know when the last time he won. Or you got a guy like Kirk Cousins who don't win anything. He got to go. He got the big chains around his neck and all kind of stuff like that. And all he does is get $94 million contracts.
But it's kind of crazy, like how they always use, I feel like our attitudes and personalities to either keep us from making a team or getting us off the team.
Yeah.
It had been all, and even the same thing thinking about Cam Newton and like even RG3 is a couple of them guys where it's like Colin Kaepernick. There's no way you can tell me he's not better than the second or third string quarterbacks that are on some of these teams.
RG3 had a great take to it. He said what he said was, and I agree. He said, a lot of these same teams, had him high on the draft board.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and a lot of these same teams spoke glowingly about him in his interviews. They all talked about how great he was. He interviewed well and all this great stuff. And then all of a sudden, draft day, he didn't interview well. Then all of a sudden, draft day, they were worried about, who he is on draft day. He was that all the time.
But you know what, though, too? I think they be saying stuff to cover their tracks. You know what I mean? Like, well, we didn't pick him because, let's say he messed up on his interview. Like, let's say it was that because now they like, oh, well, it's almost a way to cover yourself if RG3 works out to be like, which he was pretty good. Like, now you can be like, well, it was just something that was so it just didn't work out for us.
But let me tell you something that's funny because he showed this clip of Tiger Woods being interviewed before he played his first match or golf tournament. And the white guy's interviewing him. So he says, well, how do you think you're going to do? He says, I'm going to win. And the white guy started looking at him. He said, what do you mean you're going? Are you serious? He said, yeah, I'm going to win.
Are you serious?
He says, don't you think that's a little presumptuous? He says, no. He says, who plays to lose? He said, who plays to lose? He said, yeah, but, I could see second and third. He says, no. He says, I'm going to win. But you can see, look on the guy's face, and the guy mumbles on his breast like, yeah, right. So he said, oh, no, I was just agreeing with what you said. But you can see in this guy's face, like, who do you think you are?
Who do you think you are?
So I'm saying, so they were saying the same thing about him. And he didn't have gold chains, didn't have all that stuff. I can go on and on who they did it to.
Tom Brady told Bob Kraft, this is the best decision that they ever made. Like, I think, like, that's where it's kind of, that's why I asked what's the difference between confidence and cocky. And, like, we can clearly see a little bit where that difference is in the line. Because even from a parent's standpoint, when we talk about this situation, like, the man is that Archie Manning can come out here and say, like, yo, Eli's not going here. Don't you dare. He's not going to the West Coast. And it's okay.
John Elway did, and his father did the same thing.
It's okay. Though.
They weren't going to play. Well, then it was the Baltimore coach. They not going to Baltimore.
Yeah, and then so when Deion comes out and says that, and even thinking beyond other sports, when you have LeVar Ball, when he come out and he talking about his sons tonight, we going to the Lakers. Like, and he wasn't even saying like we not going here or there, but it's just like the presence of your dad being able to be there and say something.
And the reason why I say is Ronnie, who does none of that, and they gave him the same treatment because of his dad. Nothing he said and nothing he did, and they gave him the same treatment. You know, his dad.
That's a great point.
But I'm saying he wasn't mouthing, he wasn't sensing entitlement. He took a beating, and he didn't do anything. He didn't demand. His dad did it, and his dad said no. And his dad openly said it. He didn't ask me to do this. He just said he just wanted to be an NBA player. Wanted his name called. So I mean, it's just so funny how you can't win. And then the thing they refer to, you know, they go to the chains around their neck. And I said this to somebody today. I was in the chat room. Yeah, but what athlete, white or black, came out without a chain around their neck?
All of them do.
Who came out then not dancing and walking? You know, everybody did. That was their night.
Everybody.
And it's funny because somebody said, I never thought about this. Ryan Clark said it. He says, what people don't understand, that is the only time in America where a young black person can become a millionaire in a couple hours.
Cam Newton said.
Cam Newton said,
all the drafts.
Yeah, and he's right though.
You changing your life.
And that's the thing is, and it's just crazy because they say it's not race, but you don't talk about his talent. You talk about the gold chains. You talk about because how do you know he's entitled? You never met him. He got a sense of entitlement, and it's funny because one of the things I ask people, there's no different. Like when I was working at Comcast Cable, Ralph Roberts left the company, gave the company to his son. I'm cool with that. If you can give your son $1 million company, but nobody ever says anything, you don't hear all this uproar. It happens all the time when people don't look like this, give their kids companies or whatever. Nobody says a word. Or you can get grandfathered into Harvard or somewhere because nobody says a word.
Yeah, and it's like even though I'm just thinking about like
it's crazy.
What Deion it did and is doing is special. To have 2 of your sons out of 3. Like, I mean, all 3 of them doing well because the one's doing the recording and production, but like to have them all on this trajectory and path of success, like I think that's where it's a little frustrating to sit back and watch people talk about it. Like especially when LeVar Ball, like you said, LeBron James, like it happens
every
to black dads
all the time. And then you say it's not about race, but even when that whole night they were humble. Every time you flashed on the draft, even when it was over, let me tell you, he didn't curse anybody, he didn't blame anybody. He just said, "I'm thankful for the Cleveland Browns for taking." They still dogging the dude, talking he needs to be humble. Like, what else you gotta do? Yeah, what else you gotta do?
And I also think, just to add another wrinkle, I do think they were also using this as a ratings boost as well too, because I've never seen me personally. I've never watched Out of the First Day.
Yeah. Somebody said that like you were always like somebody worried about Sunday. He finally got picked. So I think it was also but it's also a bad look for the NFL. It's the NFL.
It speaks to their validity,
credibility. It would have been different if you would have came out and said he didn't have talent. He was second round, third round along. Or if you said those because all the fanfare he had when he was in college. If you mentioned that earlier, you can't say somebody's a top prospect. You got him on the top of the draft board. Then all of a sudden, the draft night, 32 teams have a problem.
And you know what else is bad? Who the Saints picked up makes this so much worse.
Did you see the highlight? Did you see the highlight of him?
Yes, I see the low lights. The low light of him at the draft.
Throwing the ball like 10 yards in front of the dude.
And then he had another one in the game where he just threw it up like this underhand. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is who you say y'all need the Saints. Y'all need a quarterback or somebody y'all could develop. You telling me that y'all couldn't take a chance on it? Because even I think that's another thing too. I think people were scared of the business that Shedeur is. You know what I mean? Because I think he has a following that might be a little bit bigger than the team that he goes to.
Say
bad team.
That's what another.
But you know what? Come out and say that. Come out and say, look, hey, we think he's going to be a distraction. Come out and say, we think he's going to be a distraction. It's nothing against his talent. Don't attack his character.
Right.
That's different.
Like,
just.
But that's that idea. This is where the $40 million slave, that public shaming.
Because
They
all
like giving you your lashes,
all
trying
these
to break
white
you
people
down.
out there, and I don't care because it bothered me because I was having a conversation with a black guy in the chat room, and he says, so I said, wait a minute. I said, I teach my boys not to shrink when they walk into a room, to walk into a room like they own the joint. That's the problem. What do you mean that's the problem? We don't always have to be. It's not being a center of attention.
Just being confident.
But
ain't nobody coming in and say, "Yeah, I'm here."
Being confident to speak up.
And see, as a father, that's what hurts me this thing more than anything else, because you see, and the first thing they say is not about race. Like one guy called him a boy. He ain't a boy. He a grown man, first of all. But you keep talking about his father like his father's a bad dude. His father's never been in trouble with the law. His father, and you know what? And I said this to somebody, and they thought about it. He was the first football player to really brand themselves.
Yep.
But check this out. When you wanted him to win the Super Bowl, wasn't nobody talking about how what a loudmouth he was. They would spend millions of dollars to get him on the team. And then everybody talking about what a great teammate he is.
Are you going to shut down Michael Irvin this week or not?
Yeah, but even Michael Irvin, they all talked about when he played for the 49ers or the Cowboys, or even with the Falcons. Everybody talked about what a great teammate he was. So it's funny how all of 30 years later, just because he's rich and he's sustainable, he don't need anybody, now he's a bad person. Now he's self-certain. Dude he 3.5 GPA in the first time in history of the school. He puts out men, not just football players, but men.
You want to know what else is like why I really think it is like this racial thing too, and how crazy it is. Yeah. I've never seen where I don't know if you've seen like the photos or images where people got the signs that say like F Shedeur at a park, and like they just genuinely want bad things to happen.
And he's a 21-year-old kid.
And it's like, why? But why?
That's my point. Why you hate? And my thing is,
he a good student.
And this is my point about Chris Carter. This is my thing about Chris Carter.
Foul, ain't got a ton of kids.
This is my thing about Chris Carter. You had every opportunity to talk to him. You had every opportunity to talk to Deion through this whole process. You wait till it's over to get on TV to do an interview and throw wood on the fire. You could have called him and said, "Yo, I think this is what was wrong." No, you get on the audience in front of everybody and you throw wood in the fire. And then the other thing, and you said it. This is a kid who did everything he was supposed to do. As a black father, you tell your kids to be respectful, get good grades, get educated, man. Don't have a lot of kids while you're out there, man. Don't get in trouble by the law.
Be careful.
Do the best, be the best possible person you can be. He checked all those boxes, and it still wasn't good enough. And not only do people were rooting that he didn't get drafted, they want to see him do bad.
Yeah, and I think that what also is a little frustrating too is that people think because your parent is in this position, that automatically means that you're going to be destined for success. Because there's plenty of Hollywood famous celebrity parents who wish that their kids would just calm it down. I know Michael Jordan right now. He's like, man, I wish I had a Shedeur.
But not just Michael Jordan. You hear all the time about these celebrities. Kids end up in rehab, one of different places, man. And then they say, well, he can't play. He turned 2 programs around. He turned 2 programs around, and I just think, I just think it's crazy. And then you got people like Stephen A. Then you got Stephen A. Smith chiming in today, making it worse. He doesn't think, him and his anonymous sources, that Cleveland's going to give him a fair chance, that he's going to keep him on the bench. Like, yo, we just throw stuff out there.
Sean Watson might not play this year. Joe Flacco's 50 years old. 82. So that already 2 off.
Yeah, but I'm saying that the guy they drafted in front. So I'm just, the only person that there's very few people who break it down, and there's but somebody did break it down. James Jones did. If you ever watch the show, and he made a bunch of sense. The white guy on there, I think, who was a holder on the, he should just be quiet. But James Jones broke it down. He said, and Ocho finally understood what he's saying. He said the only thing that could happen to him being the 5th round pick, because everybody kept saying it was the best thing. He said it's not, because you're not going to get the snaps everybody got, because they only have. He said you get like 15 snaps, maybe 18 snaps of practice. He may get 2 or 3 early because Flacco, but when Flacco starts practicing, he won't get those. So he had the opportunity to play in the game. And then when you get in the game, you with the worst of the worst. And then, so the guy on the show says, but you got to, when you throwing it, if I'm playing for the Eagles and I'm throwing to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, and then I'm throwing the guys who not even going to be in the league in 5 days, that's a huge difference. That's a huge, because if he drops the ball, the bottom line gonna say you incomplete pass.
That's because this percentage.
So it's interesting how people look at it, and they turn into this thing, and they want. And the thing that bothers me is, if you really think it's his talent, focus on his talent. I don't want to hear you talk about his chains. I don't want to hear you talk about his clothing line. I don't want to hear you talk about the car he drives. I don't want to hear you talk. I mean, all that is irrelevant to me. Because I got news for you. Those coaches, if their teams don't win, they fire.
Yeah,
they won't have jobs next year. Now I don't think they thought about that. Like, you drafted Jackson Dart, he better be able to play this year.
I will say this to be like on the more positive side of things. I think like what Shiloh did that whole process.
Oh yeah, the whole family.
I thought that was awesome.
Yeah,
like to keep like his speech. You could tell Shedeur was a little flustered, a little bit. The camera's in your face, and then just the constant jokes.
The prank call.
Yeah, the prank call. That's a whole nother thing. And now it's coming out. A whole bunch of players got prank calls.
Yeah, I heard that too.
But he's definitely
the difference in this prank call was he got the number from his dad,
and it was out of hate.
Yeah, that one.
You can't, as an NFL player, you can't have people's personal information around like that.
I'm surprised he
so
couldn't find him.
It wasn't about the prank call.
They find him.
I don't agree with the prank calls, but it wasn't about this. It was like, yo, you got it from your dad. Come on, man. Your dad gotta be smarter than that, man. You know who these
guys are. That's a breach. Man. Yeah, and then even from the kid, it's like you didn't think that like 1 year you risking your dad's job.
Because I'm from another team. That's why would I even
Well, from all accounts, I don't think they live together. I think while he was over there, he was visiting. They said. So while he was visiting, he just his dad.
Never.
I guess the dad left the laptop over or something like that. Yeah.
Staying at the hotel.
Yeah, but I think like even he's saying the last, the first preseason game. You don't know how many snaps you're gonna see the first preseason game. You don't know.
Another theory, by the way. I heard the only reason why Cleveland moved up to do this is because the Eagles were going to do that.
And the Eagles were going to take it.
Yeah. Oh, they were going to take Shedeur? Yeah. That'd have been
crazy. They jumped the front, they jumped the front and the spot in front of
that action.
Yeah, they said the Eagles were going to take him.
That's crazy.
I would have been happy about that, honestly.
I would have been happy too. I think it was a perfect scenario for him. Yeah. He got a couple years. He can sit there and learn how to play.
His dad would have been happy. He'd been kicking it with Gilly and Wallow.
He would have been, but he would have been appreciated here, man. And to me, but it just goes to show you because, in this town, WIP radio, which I don't know anybody listen to him.
I can't listen to him no more.
I don't listen to him, but they blast him because the dude they talking about Jalen Hurts got something to prove.
At their Super Bowl?
Yeah, that's he just won a Super MVP. He got something to prove this year.
Stuff.
And then he said, and I'm just saying, and we'll go back to it. Then he says the Eagles are worse than they were last year. Everybody else in the country saying they had the best draft. So, anyways, this just goes to show you how they judge differently because Josh Allen has never been to it, and then nobody says that about him.
But I was just thinking about same thing, similar to Chris Carter and probably a lot of these guys. They just say stuff to get like some type of shot.
Like Rashard McCants.
Oh my goodness, I can't stand Rashard McCants. But like,
he's on Gilbert Arenas show.
He be talking nonsense. But it's still like people legit. I don't even think they are saying things that they even believe sometimes. They might believe it partially, but it's just like this sounds good. This sounds like.
But I think
this is gonna get the people.
If you watch Chris Carter interview, it's different. I hear what you're saying. I do agree, people. Like sometimes I think Stephen A. Smith just say stuff.
He's one of them guys.
But if you watch Chris Carter interview, man, he was sincere and he was answering like he really knew. That's the thing that cracked me up. He was answering until the guy put him on the spot and said, no. Then he says, well, who are they? Oh no, it's the system. But you know what you're talking about. And then somebody in the chat might say, yo, when somebody says they, because check this out. In corporate America, you sued. Mm-hmm. If somebody finds out you talked to another bunch of companies about not hiring them, that's open and shut case. You were sued. If it was on purpose, it was by accident. You weren't sued.
Yes. And then I think
like that's about it.
That's always like there's so many factors to this.
It's crazy.
Him not being picked, whether it's from the team, the leagues, the announcers, how they're talking about it, the coaches, how these anonymous comments are coming out. But it's highlighted, I think, things that have happened over time. Like,
but you're Bill Cowell, right? Who? You got Bill Cowell, whatever his name.
Oh yeah.
So you got because he wears his hat backwards. So then, what's name wears his hat backwards? The coach for the Atlanta Falcons. Washington Redskins. A bunch of half the guys in the a lot of guys with it. I'm no longer a fan because he wears his hat back. It's the stupid. It's the stupid stuff they say, and that means to me that's personal now. It ain't like he can't throw the ball because Deion had the perfect answer. He says you look at the tape where he's rolling to his right and throws the ball on the rope back across the field to the left. What do you mean he had an arm strength? You look at him dodging people, completing pass because everybody says he got the worst offensive line. So now he's throwing his offensive lineman to the bus. They ain't blind. You can clearly watch the tape. No, he's not Jalen Hurts, so he's gonna get back there. He's not, the dude Daniels from Washington, but he got a little bit of escape in him. Mm-hmm. But it's funny how, and the thing about it, people just repeat it. But when I see a guy like Rich Eisen or some of the other experts, and they don't know what's going on. Like most of the guys draft night was like, yo, we don't understand what's happening. Now, if you close to the game, so you would have heard this stuff long before draft night if it was true. Long before draft night, you would have heard all the rumors that everybody has.
Now, either like you said, either it was collusion or they were lying to Deion.
Well, but you know what? I didn't think about it. I think both y'all had a good point. I think it was a silent conclusion or collusion, but I also think you're right that people were thinking to themselves like, okay, if I draft this guy, what am I getting with him?
Yeah.
Like what kind of attention I'm gonna get? Is he gonna disrupt? But like if I'm the Saints, or if I'm Pittsburgh, I know Mike Tomlin's not gonna let this dude come in and take over. And you got some guys on your team that's not gonna come let him take over.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's this ironic, but
with Tomlin, I think again, Tomlin's another one. They've been talking about his job the past
couple of years.
But he waiting for Aaron Rodgers. So you got what's the dude he got playing right now? The dude Randolph. Dude, that's what he got the starting quarterback.
I heard another theory about that. They said Aaron Rodgers might have told the Steelers, listen, don't draft Shedeur if I do end up coming.
Yeah, I can see that. He don't want the competition.
Yeah. And you gotta think, remember when Tim Tebow went to the Jets?
Yeah.
And is that like people don't want a backup getting all that attention?
Oh man!
So,
but he got attention for a different reason. He got attention because
Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers.
That's what Mark Sanchez was there.
I know. I was going to say.
Fumble and all that.
Well, see this, and how many? Let me tell you, is so many USC quarterbacks was supposed to be all this, and they sucked.
Matt Leinart.
When they get into it, and not just Sanchez wasn't no great quarterback. I'm just saying. Now he's starting to find his stride, but look how long he's been in the league. Just like Oakland, you got Geno Smith. I got nothing against Geno Smith, but he's 30-something years old. How much longer he gonna be your quarterback?
Tom Brady, your mentor, you would think.
So now they trying to start that rumor that Tom Brady told the Raiders. It's just so much crap they got. And I wouldn't skip Bayless, man.
But that's people just be saying stuff, and then even I think that's why. I think part of the collusion, this might be conspiracy theory. I think part of the collusion is dropping these anonymous things out here.
Oh, I agree.
So that when he falls and he drops, we can all be like, well, they said, somebody said these were the problems. Like somebody said, so it was and we don't know what team it is. So
I give you the perfect example. And I asked somebody this question, he couldn't answer me. Everybody keeps bringing up Michael Vick in the dogfight. Well, no, I'm just giving you an example. Brett Favre. He ripped off the welfare system. They ripped off the welfare system in Green Bay. But I'm just saying, he ripped off the welfare people.
Remember the photos he sent?
Yeah. But I mean, he actually stole money, and nobody talks about that. But every time you hear Michael Vick's name, he shouldn't get the job in Norfolk. I'm just saying he shouldn't have been an honorary captain. And Brett Favre, you stole with the governor. Him and the governor conspired to rip off welfare money. To build something on to build a building in his alma mater, and nobody ever talked about that. That's the part that killed me. What exactly talking about? Aaron Rodgers. He lied to everybody. Oh yeah, I got my shot, and then he gets on the radio and says, "I didn't take that shot." And everybody just glazed over top of it. So it's killing me.
Just for homeless people.
And the point I'm making is it's a double standard, and people don't want to admit it. We talked about Johnny Manziel. Come on, man. Dude had all kind of issues. He still was bad. He had a commercial before he had a seat before he died.
Legit, he was a partier. And same thing, Baker made videos partying, disrespectful, taking the flag, sticking it, playing it. And then y'all want to talk about how, that's fiery, that's competitive.
Well, that's what I want to talk about. Why is it that when it's somebody who looks like us, it's arrogance? It's There's a guy from college, and he posted this video. And
I think I might have seen it.
And he talked about how when
lifting weights.
Yeah, and he said when he was got there, he was I got and the coach pulled him aside and said, "Yo, it's not about you." And now the football team, now the quarterback is in there doing it. That's leadership.
He's a leader.
That's positive energy. Same thing. And every guy. So and even he like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think that story sums up like how this is again why I pose the question: what's the difference between cocky versus confidence? Because that story right there, and there's so many other countless stories, and you hear it not just with you hear it in the draft or like in the combine when the white guys he's twitchy, fast, not fast, but like crafty, like headsy, high IQ, and then for us it's like ball skill, he's fast, like freak athlete, it's like certain things that
try to change his position.
Yeah, or even from a negative standpoint, like
they said that's why, and I didn't realize they said that's why Lamar dropped because they told him he refused to play receiver and he had low IQ. He refused. He wouldn't consider switching to receiver.
A 2-time MVP.
Ain't that crazy?
2-time MVP.
But yeah, nobody talking about that.
Heisman winner.
But it's the same thing. But it was funny. He can't been the big one, but they don't say that about Josh Allen. They don't say that. They don't say that.
Why do you think about playing tight end?
They don't say it about the dude and with the Chargers. They just make excuses. And the thing, because even
Tim Tebow, why you ain't changed his position when he came in?
He tried to.
There's a little too late.
It was too late then, man.
They tried to put him at tight end.
So I just think it's just, and I think, but the thing about
Mike Allstott.
like I was watching it, and I know I'm gonna get in trouble for this, but this one particular chat room that I since deleted and got out of, the number of African American women who were dumping on him, I was shocked. On Shedeur, I was shocked.
Really?
Yeah, I told you that the other day. I was shocked in this one chat room. So I was shocked at the ones who was just, he's spoiled, he's self-centered, it's all about himself, and he's a narcissist, just going on. And I'm thinking to myself, like, yo, nobody knows you repeating what somebody said. You don't even know this dude.
Ask him what a sack is and see what happens.
But they may say something different.
Bad.
What I say, and even some people, Caucasians, you're repeating stuff that you don't hear. I mean, that you only heard. You don't know the guy. And to me, I've never seen him. I mean, arrogant or cocky. He laughs.
I've never seen him disrespectful.
Yeah, and he's confident. Yes, sir. No. Even doing that whole thing. Yes, sir. No, sir. He just, even when the crank call. Dude is just, he handled this whole thing. But he hold this whole thing with class, man. And these people still bash him. And it's always personal. It's not about his abilities.
And you know what actually is kind of what you just said now that it makes me a little bit more frustrated is how, like, man, he really been handling all this with class, yet they still trying to find like these negative things to highlight and paint.
He's been doing the last couple of days. Well, yesterday he was working out.
He went to Cleveland already.
Yeah. Today he actually visited a middle school in Cleveland.
And that's what bothered me about Cam Newton on and talking about, what he got to do is he got to work. It ain't about the cars. It ain't about the watch. It ain't about, dude. First thing he said was, I'm ready. But the first thing he said was, I'm ready to go to work. Yeah. But my thing is, so what? Should he get a hoopty to go there now because he's not driving? Seriously, he got to go buy Timex now instead of wearing what he. I don't understand that.
But it's actually another funny thing I just thought about in comparison to they talking about these kids that are coming in with money now. That he might all these kids coming in with money. I've seen a guy that it said that his NIL contract was $8 million last year, and because of where he got drafted, he took a $7 million cut. He only making $1 million because he went to the draft.
And I don't agree with it, but they're within the rules. The rules allow them to do that.
Yeah.
So don't get mad at them for maximizing their potential.
Exactly.
And that's what it seems like you punishing these guys because they're getting paid. They didn't make the rules. Most of these guys had nothing to do. They didn't vote for it. They didn't go out and picket for it. They didn't go on strike for it. It was gifted to them because of past guys who never got paid, who gave up life and limb sometimes to play the game that they love and didn't get a cent for it. And even with that, they don't talk about when Deion said, okay, let's split the money up between all the teams here when he was in the HBCU or he put the HBCU on the map. Colorado hadn't won squat till he got there. But now all of a sudden they know good and he's overrated and it kills me.
He won like 2 games.
And then
in 20 years.
But I thought Nick Saban, when Nick Saban came out and said, that they need to hear what it is, sales call anyway. When Nick Saban came out and said that he didn't understand it. When he talked about how good he was and where he should have went, I thought that was going to stymie some of the. But it seems like it got worse. It seems like, because they interviewed him, he said, I don't understand. He says, if you want to tell me that, in the top couple picks, it's about your opinion, But to say that he wasn't first round, or talent wise, or even second round talent, come on, that's not even about your opinion, then.
Right? Yes.
But so I thought when he said something that it would kind of change the direction, but it hasn't. And again, it's just for me, it's a reminder, man, how there's two different scales that they have out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's two different scales out there, man. And I think
that's a reminder for y'all.
But some people's not. Some people's not, because some people count the stuff they repeat. Healing because is that so what? Why can't your dad put you in a position to be successful? I don't understand that. I don't understand that. Like I said, I was working at Comcast, and Ralph Roberts turned the company over to his son. His son earned it because he did everything he was supposed to. But what was he supposed to do? Give it to somebody else?
Yeah. I mean, we were speaking about sons.
George Carlin did that. Mm-hmm. John Stockton did that.
But yeah, and nobody says a word. And so, but when we do it, it's nepotism, or we get in the hookup. And it kills me, man. Or what, his dad is rich. So what and that's the other thing. I was watching the show, and they were having this conversation, and the same guy, I can't think of the same guy on Speak with James Jones, and just like Shady's on the show sometimes.
I know
Joe. And he said something, man, and I'm not a violent person, but somebody should have smacked him upside his head, because he goes, well, some of the problems he's gonna have with him is because they don't know if he wanted enough because he's rich. So now is he gonna put in the work he's supposed to be? But that's what. How can you say that about somebody?
So many players that
not wanting enough because he was rich.
Yeah,
he's not hungry enough, and I'm like, you making again a blanket.
No, he did.
He got hurt. He had like stomach concussion.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
Anyway, he was talking about coming. Well, Carson Wentz was so bad, he was talking about coming back. But so I'm just saying, and it's just ironic how that's the standard now. Mm-hmm. And then and when you hear professional people say that, there's a lot of rich guys who get into the NFL. And then Chad Ocho told the story when they found out his mom was a doctor, and his dad was a professor. All of a sudden, people was questioning him because he didn't go through enough things. Like, what's your worst experience you had? So because he couldn't say he grew up poor and he missed meals and stuff like that, people were looking at him different.
Which is crazy.
It is crazy.
That's insane.
It's nuts.
And they don't expect that from a white player.
No,
it's really
my parents did well enough in life and wanted to make sure I had a well-off life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to play.
But that's what frustrates me, because I look at it and I'm thinking, and along with that, I'm thinking I got a 6-year-old grandson who's going to grow up in a town now that's more racist than when I grew up. But yet I hear people keep saying race has nothing. That's the first thing they say. Race got nothing to do with it. But I go back to Shedeur. You keep talking about his gold chains. You keep talking about his dad. Nothing about him. And it really is not about his character. You're talking about what he has, what he owns.
Mm-hmm.
You try to throw in that he needs to be humble. And I say this to somebody. I say this to a sister. You ever notice that when it's a black guy, he needs to be humbled, and when it's a black woman, she has an attitude? They don't let me do anything. When it's a black woman, she got a bad attitude. She's an angry black woman. But when there's a black guy, he got to be humble. You can have the worst attitude in the world when you don't look like us, and nobody says a word, man.
He's just having a bad day.
Yeah. And I've heard him say, well, she got messy. Well, she's an angry black woman. No, she's just firm, and when she's trying to get something done, she's just being firm. I need to get this done.
She's just fiery.
Fiery spirit.
So and I'm hoping all of them ball out. But if you look at it right now, it just don't make sense to me, man. And especially when you see what you said, low lights. That dude, man. First of all, I don't even know how he got drafted. Because if I went there and threw like that, man, they probably kicked us out the combine.
Like, what are you even doing here?
He's like 24.
Oh yeah, he's 26, and they were talking about that. Yeah. They said he's 26, and so by the time he play, he will be 30.
Man. I think he was Justin Herbert's back.
They said by the time I think so. They said by the time he play, he's gonna be 30.
Here, man.
He's gonna be a rookie, 30 years old.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I know we kind of spoke about fathers today, and it's one thing I wanted to talk about, as we had this like kind of last 15 minutes, is I see Giannis and Tyrese Halliburton's dad.
I didn't see it till today, and then I gotta say this, man. I have never seen Shaquille O'Neal at his dumbest until that.
What you say?
He was Shaquille O'Neal.
Giannis.
Yeah, was talking about how like that's Giannis' fault.
Everybody else is looking at him like,
Giannis was standing there.
Not according to Shaquille O'Neal. According to Shaquille O'Neal, Giannis said something first.
Like just upset that he just lost.
Well, I know I'm laughing. Man, Giannis could have smashed him like a grape.
I think another reason why
really got angry.
The reason Shaq's answer was dumb to me too. If anybody got in your face in the game, you would have squashed him.
You just walked right up to him.
You would have picked that person up by his head,
and he cursing at him. And then we didn't do anything.
Yeah,
we didn't. And I love Giannis' response. Yo, I got a chip. Y'all ain't got a chip yet.
Right.
Yeah. And I guess he's lucky Giannis' brother wasn't around because
then that would have
always went off the bench. He would always went off the bench. And then I was watching the interview, it made it look worse because he said, "Look, when we come to the games, my family only sit in the front." He said, "We don't sit in the front row seat." He said when they won the championship, his mom had asked his permission because she come on the floor. He said because they just believe in manners and being polite. And the way he handled it, I thought was so graceful. So when I heard Shaq, I'm like, yo, what are you talking about?
Even Tyrese Halliburton, the way
he apologized for his
dad. Like my dad got it. He shouldn't have did that. But it also made me think about T. Morant, Ja Morant's dad, and how he just be doing too much. Like I think sometimes like you get in the heat of the moment and you just enjoying yourself, but I don't think he meant anything by it. Like in terms of like he just is a bad dad, or like I don't think that's something that he normally does. I just feel like
Chris, I hear what you're saying, but you purposely go out your way to antagonize somebody. When you go down there, put your son's towel up in front of him, and this is how we up and do it over and over again, and he's not responding, and you keep going. Then you up in his face again on the side, like almost just. Come on, you went out.
They was like,
I was like, you went out your way. You went out your way.
That's a bad moment.
So you went out your way. And I'm not saying the bad dude, but you went out your way to do that, and you targeted him too. You could have went to any other Buck player. You specifically targeted him.
Yeah,
and he was this version of Giannis.
Right.
This was like
when he first came in,
he would have.
It would have been a commercial because his brother probably came off and speared him like a wrestling spear. Because they were showing the highlights about 2 weeks ago when he got a hard foul and they had to hold his brother back. It took like 4 people to hold his brother back. He was trying to come off the bench.
I think, like I said, for those fathers,
that's the other version.
Remember when you're at your son's job. I understand it's a sport. But it's like, yo, just remember.
That's an AAU moment, man.
Yeah, we just ain't AAU no more.
LeVar
never did that. Baller brand. He was a coach. He's on the sideline. He couldn't do it.
But you know what's funny? He got less heat than Shedeur gets.
Who?
Halliburton's dad. They talk more. Right. They still say more hateful stuff about Shedeur than they do about him.
And that was kind of
that was very. Like, he could be banned from.
Yeah, right. He could no longer be on the sidelines. That's just so embarrassing. That's a bad look for your team, your family, your son.
That's your son.
Just hit a game.
That's probably your son's finest moment in the NBA, man.
They just was saying how your son's the most overrated player in the league. He got voted over the most overrated player in the league by his peers.
Yeah, you gotta be kidding.
Nah, for real. Like they just did that, and that's why he went off the other day too. Like, he was balling because after he heard that, he was like overrated.
Dude, he's not as flashy.
He's not right.
He don't talk trash.
He's not that flashy, but he can play.
He's a very good player.
He can put the ball. He can put the ball in the basket too.
Mm-hmm.
His shot falling.
But he can go to the basket.
He get downhill. He get to the spot. He get other people in the game. He gotta get, and he played defense.
But I think that's somewhat. But I also think that's the way the game is going. Is people want to see the flashiness, man. That's old school basketball, for lack of a better term. And guys, doing it, just play.
He's just getting to it.
He ain't out there trying to go behind his back, throw the bar around his neck. He just playing, and people like the flashiness. Like they love that Steph can shoot, but they love when he does the shimmy and all this stuff. Like when he was on the floor, he made it. They love that stuff.
He made Chris Paul
playing against him, they hate it. But the people, it's good TV.
Shoot it, turn around.
Good TV. Yeah, it's good TV, man. When he shoot it and just start running back down the court, man, or like against the Rockets, he dribbled through like all 5 of them and flipped up the little finger roll. Yeah, so
Ja Morant got the best celebration.
Yeah.
Which one, the grenade?
Yeah. Boom. But I just think, but see, this is the thing that's funny because like I like Ant. But I'm just saying though, dude is like, yo, all he cares about is basketball. He don't care what people think. He don't care. I just want to win.
He about to send LeBron James to Cancun tonight.
You see how he was pushing him tonight, which was a foul, by the way.
So
that was cool.
It was no cool. But
LeBron
first LeBron was trying not to get involved, but then he just started like openly taking two hands and pushing back.
I like it too.
Well, I'm not gonna say I'm
So
against
back
it, but I think he just let LeBron know that dude.
Back-to-back years, KD, LeBron.
I think LeBron. I think
they might play the Warriors the next.
LeBron and Luka at the same time. Like that's
I think LeBron know. I think this is letting LeBron know it's a change of the guard.
Or just right. I mean, he's not scared of nobody.
It's like the first time I feel like you really see someone of Anthony Edwards' generation actually go at LeBron, because usually people were like,
not physical, not he just
like,
he's
physical.
But this is what I was saying about
he's like whatever.
Allen Iverson did the same thing with Michael Jordan. Everybody had such respect for Michael Jordan when he got in the league. They didn't. Allen Iverson was like, yo, I'm gonna try this move on him. So I think, and he came with the cornrows, and that's it. He don't care, man.
Kobe said, "You want to show me."
Yeah, you gonna have to show me.
But see, somebody said this, and Ron Gilbert Arenas said that, and it makes so much sense, and I never thought about it. He said if LeBron James had Kobe Bryant's killer instinct, that he'd be shared every kind of record.
Yeah.
If he had that tenacity and that mama mentality, but he would really,
but
he really would have just crushed it. And he said, even though he's breaking his records, but he would have just, he would have shattered everything, man. If he just had that Kobe mentality, the mama mentality, man.
Then he would have just been a scorer.
Now Kobe played defense, man.
He would have been a scorer and played defense.
But he wouldn't
have been passing the rock like that. He wouldn't have been.
But he meant that ferocity, man. He meant that meanness. He meant that kill instinct, and that's LeBron. He
would average 30.
I think
you can still pass the ball, but you just gotta be. He just.
I think killer instinct can look different though, right? Like, do it gotta be that guy that's like,
no, but what he was.
I'm gonna take the shot.
No, but Mike passed the ball in certain situations. Kerr and all them guys had big shots. But LeBron's LeBron's, especially early in his career, was a little too passive in that. He just all the time. And LeBron is, he doesn't, when Mike and
he grew.
When Mike and Kobe got mad or angry, they took the game over. That's how they responded. And LeBron is just such a nice guy.
He had some takeovers.
I was about to say.
Yeah, but it's not the same. He doesn't get the same attitude. So what Ron, and I get what I keep saying, Ron Test. Why is he on the phone? Because his son, his son was in an accident. That's different.
No, that's Gilbert Arenas' son was in an accident.
So why I keep saying Ron Test, but he go because he was just saying it, and I know what he meant. That the meanness, man. He's a great guy. Don't get me wrong. He's just a nice guy all the time, and maybe Kobe was a little over the top. Mike was a little over the top, but Ron is just a nice guy all the time. Which again, when we're on the subject, they come at him. They never been in trouble with the law, never been court cheating, everything, and they still come at him. They try to find chink in his arm.
You're too good.
So I think, I don't know. To me, it goes back to what we said earlier in the conversation. Is like the expectations are totally different.
Yes.
It's totally different.
It almost kind of goes back to that idea. Remember, it's like the shut up and dribble,
that's the first thing I thought about. Yeah, that's the first thing I thought about when
dribble. He just wants you to show up and play, make the money, like don't say nothing. But anybody else, like we can't have that personality, that pizzazz. Like it gotta look a certain way. It gotta be packaged in a way that's digestible for
like Magic Johnson.
Acceptable.
Yeah, be like Magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Jordan was the same way. Michael Jordan never said a word to go against anything with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
He never did. He just did. I remember, when they asked him about, they were talking about politics and stuff, and some of the stuff. And he said Republicans buy sneakers too.
Mm-hmm.
So we got 5 minutes. What do y'all think about the Bark? Because he's getting hammered, man. He's getting hammered about
Saquon Barkley with Donald Trump
playing golf and going to the
And no one talks about. The week before, he was with Obama.
Yeah, he said that. He said that.
So,
well, because what people are saying is, I'm not agreeing. I'm just saying what people are saying is that he's almost not sensitive to the stuff like shutting down the Black History Museum, shutting down DI, the stuff that he's doing. It's almost like you're not paying attention to that.
And why does he not have to be
I'm
paying
just saying,
attention?
I'm not agreeing. But I'm saying, but that's the argument.
It's like we do it.
Don't help.
My thing is, Saquon Barkley is not going to solve any of those problems.
And that's what he was saying. That's what he was saying.
Saquon Barkley not going.
That's what he was saying.
He can't contribute to any of that.
That's what he was saying. Then he said respect the office, and I didn't agree with that because he didn't respect the office. But I'm just saying what people. And then
but I've heard people say that too.
Yeah.
Respect for the office.
And then it's the fact that he has a white wife, so they don't put on about that. And so
I heard tweets were kind of crazy.
Yeah, they did tweet some tweets out about black, early on. But I
didn't see what she said.
She's N-word, man.
What?
You didn't see that?
Like what y'all doing?
Back in the day? Or?
Yeah.
I enjoy seeing them.
You didn't know that?
Calling her friend.
It's funny because they didn't release it into the playoffs. The first playoff game is when they released it. Like the day before the first playoff game is when it came out.
And that's what he said. I gotta win this shit. Put me in coach last game of the year.
So somebody was sitting on this all year long, and then right before the first playoff game, it came out. It came out, and so people say he was like that, and I don't know, like somebody came out and said he was like that at Penn State, like when he'd be walking down the street with her, he would have speed, and then when he wasn't with her, he'd be trying to dap everybody up, saying what's up. So there's all kind of stuff coming out. I mean, I agree with you. He a grown man. It's one thing if you get there and he start, agreeing with his politics.
Right.
But,
me personally,
me personally, I wouldn't know it. But I do think, anybody can decide to do what they want to do. Yeah, it is. But come on, man. This is again, it's a black guy. It's a black guy. And who get on them, there's plenty of white people who didn't go. Like none of the Eagles went last time in 2017. None of them went. And I think the other difference is they ain't gonna mess with Malcolm Jenkins because Malcolm Jenkins he gonna come back at him. But none of them, because even Malcolm Jenkins came out and said he applauded Hurts and Brown and all those guys who did. It's about 10 guys who didn't go. Nolan Smith didn't go. Brown.
That's because they went before.
Yeah. I'm about to say Jalen Hurts when they won with Alabama.
That's because they went before.
I'm sure Nick Saban had a lot to do with it.
But they didn't go because, and I'm not getting to the politics at all. But well, Jalen Hurts was on his honeymoon anyway, so there's not much you can say about that. But but the rest of them, I guess, was like because they don't agree with Trump. So, but again, that's their choice. It's not mandated that you go to the White House after you win the Super Bowl.
And I think one thing too, like that is kind of, it's like, man, it was kind of like a historical thing, like tradition for it's like, man, this happens, you go to the White House, and I'm sure it's always been somebody there where it has been some political differences. Yeah. I'm sure it's been guys who've gone in like, I don't agree with Bush, but this is the White House, this is the United States, I live in this country, and this is tradition.
Like, but I think I do think it's up to each individual, because some people see it as,
somebody said he gave up some of his aura. Can't get that back. Yeah, wait till next year. He jump over.
Wait till he just threw for $350. We watch for 2,000.
He's gonna be all right there with his lady talking about something. Go ahead, you can say it.
No, I mean, but I do.
Hold on, wait a minute.
I think for him, where the timing was off because he was just starting to show up in all these different commercials. He was showing up in all these different commercials, man. You just saying.
Why should they call him Saquon Barkley?
Yeah. Well,
but why they trying to always make the black man like he gotta be a spokesman for all of us?
But it wasn't being the spokesman. What people were saying was that he, it's almost like he signed off and agreeing with this dude who's this is on the Hills just days ago. He just took funding from the Black History Museum. He squashed DI, anything to do with African Americans. He's like squashing. So that's what people were saying. Like, and it's not like he just went to the White House. He went there, hung out with him for like a weekend. He went to Mar-a-Lago. He just been hanging out with the dude, like they're best buddies. So hey. I personally, I wouldn't know it. Personally, it's up to it's everybody. So it's personally, because I feel that strongly that I just don't agree with his politics.
Trump, don't send me an invite to Mar-a-Lago.
You can go.
I have a tough.
I probably would have told the White House just because I wanted to actually see the White House.
Well, I don't know, but they said he's actually the first black guy to get there.
What?
To Mar-a-Lago. I don't know.
Once in a lifetime thing sometimes, like
some things you don't want to be the once in a lifetime thing.
For a black man, it's hard to be the first. It's only hard.
Me personally, I just think, and it goes back, especially, but see, there's just so many other things going on. The thing with Shedeur is going on. All that's happening right now. So it did look bad for him. It did look bad. It almost seems like you got all these commercials, you got it made. So that's the first thing you did. You know, where some people went to Disney World, you went to hang out with Trump. So it didn't look good. So and everybody's entitled. Now I don't think you should be calling them Saquon and stuff like that. I mean that's too far. I think that's extremely too far. But, you know, but see, this goes back to what we were talking about. You know, and I don't know why the black wrote that. The same I was talking about Shedeur. They made it personal.
Yeah, but I guess it is a little strange though to me because it's like
they made it personal.
I do not like Saquon Barkley for his politics. I do not care.
If you want to run for 2,000
yards, oh my God, are you going to take over my fantasy? You're going to, if I get you a fantasy team, are you going to help me win a championship?
I got news for you. You better, because if he don't.
And I think with all this stuff going on this year, he's about to shatter a record. He's about to break his own record next year. You heard it here first.
He's going to break the day in town.
I'm glad we ended with this because it's on a lighter note. But again, this goes back to perception.
Yeah,
it goes back to people's perception. So because I too, he's a football player first. He's married to a white woman. That's his business. I don't think you should judge him. I know people who win different marriages, different ethnicities, and they're good friends of mine. So that's none of my business.
You know what it is though? Black folk think that we own other black folk.
Well, and some people on the color line too got a problem too.
I know. But I'm speaking to us. Like, I don't care about that.
Well, I don't think it's wrong. I think Devin hit it on the head. I think they think
it's like why
you represent everybody. All the time.
And that's part of where that ownership comes from. Because it's like you better act like how we think you should act as part of the black community. And if you're not doing it,
then you're slave farm.
Yes.
That was messed up.
Not my words. I don't believe it.
No, that was messed up. But that was messed up. But see, that's what I meant.
I don't got a problem with it.
But that's what I meant. Why get personal? Again, this goes back to what we're saying. In fairness, we were saying things about Shedeur. If you don't like his politics, you don't like his politics. But you don't have to get personal with him.
Yeah.
You don't. And I think, you talking about it because people are, what do you think? Because he went to Penn State, and so it's all kind of stuff. But the only thing I don't understand is why he didn't think that was going to happen. That's what I don't understand. Why he's shocked that he's getting this pushback. Yeah, and even some of the pros are saying the same thing. They're not knocking what he did, but you got to understand that something's going to come with that.
Yeah.
Send out a tweet like, listen, y'all. Something about that.
Not even that, but not even that. But you can't be naive. But you can't be naive in this culture and think there's going to be repercussions, whether you think it's right or wrong. You can't. You can't be that naive. And I think to that he was naive, thinking that he was going to skate.
We're just thinking that people could seperate the two. Like it is kind of crazy. Like once you take a picture with him, it's like, oh my goodness, he's a Republican.
But we're in a climate right now where if you like, I'll use myself. I'll use myself. Races, since I was a kid, I have to go back to early in college. Race has never been such an issue in my life as it is now. And so it's challenging to think you making all these progressions, you making all these headway, and then now we're going backwards. And like you said, it is wrong because sometimes we put all our hopes on this one person supposed to change the world, and so, but I kind of see the frustration in people because I see it. I see the frustration. We were talking about my grandson, how he starting to realize that he's in this school, he's only black, and somebody put a SWAT sticker up in the school. So it's real. It's real, but it's real, and it's never been more real for some people. And so for some people, that's their only voice is when an athlete gets an opportunity to speak out and say something. So I think they handled it wrong, but I kind of get it. I do understand the frustration because I do. That's why I had to get out the chat room. When I started, some of the stuff people were saying, man, was just really because it became about race. Yeah. It became about the gold chains. It became about what he owned. It never was about talent. It all became racial. He wears his hat backwards, so he didn't show up in the suit. A lot of guys didn't show up in the suit. All the stuff they were saying, So nobody talked about, okay, the dude never been arrested. He don't drink, he don't smoke.
GPA.
Yeah,
all that stuff nobody talks about.
Saquon Barkley thing. It's like certain black people we can all acknowledge is not our voice. You know what I mean? Like,
but okay, it's like when Target went to Al Sharpton.
Not my voice.
But the same thing Target felt like because that guy, but that guy recognized that generation to go back to Jesse Jackson, the Rainbow Coalition, all that stuff. He felt I'm gonna sit down with Jesse with Al Sharpton, and we're gonna fix this thing because Target getting ahead, they getting beat, people spending money, they getting whooped up.
You think the average
not spending
person between like 18 to 25 know who Al Sharpton is?
No, but if you're on the other side of the fence, you clueless. That's all you know. You don't know if you're on the other side of the fence. If you like Target, you don't know about Jamal O'Brien and people at the lower level. That's all you know.
Well, that's the disconnect.
That's what I said. It's like when the guy was talking about and this is my last point. The guy, the guy, the Spanish guy, he sent back by accident, and the defense mechanism was how they say he was in the gang was because he had a Chicago Bulls hat on. So he has a Chicago Bulls hat on. So I'm gonna tell you how out of touch the guy was. He said, I bet he can't name anybody but Michael Jordan on the team. Now, how long ago? And this is the guy that was saying, how using the hat against him because he had the Chicago Bulls hat on. So people like that don't think.
I mean, that's at every level. This
that's my point. Yeah,
separation
that's my point.
From our politicians to
some
businesses.
I'm surprised you didn't see this. We well over, man. So I'm surprised that you didn't.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
I'm surprised you didn't go into.
It was a great episode.
Yeah. I was definitely feeling it, especially ending on the Saquon Barkley talk. Next question. 100 men. Can you beat one gorilla? Who's going first?
You know what? I saw that, and I couldn't end of it.
How does this work? All 100 better jump on that once. It's like, the first 30 are probably going to be
one gorilla is as strong as 20 men. One gorilla.
Well, we're not going to talk about that.
There's 20 men. One gorilla.
I don't believe that.
Okay, there is. Okay, let's end this show because I got a problem. We start talking about monkeys and gorillas and all that stuff, man. I don't. I don't believe in talking about that. We started off talking about the movie Sinners, and now we're talking about gorillas at the end. We done took a whirlwind tour all the way to the end, man.
All current events.
Yo, Chris Bender Senior, man. Another episode of Above Average
Black Man.
A squared BM. Like, follow, subscribe, share.
Join us next week. Until then, take care, everybody. Great show, guys. Great show.